Today, as we remember the Ascension, it's been moved to the Sunday. It's been, I know for me, a week of different types of feelings and things because of all the stuff that has happened in our country, especially with the shootings, the recent weeks, and the shootings in Texas. And it's been a time for me to kind of pause and reflect. I know during one of the weekly homilies, I know Father Jack, myself, and Father Chris, who all spent time down in Peru in the 80s when they had the terrorist group, the Shining Path, that was very, very active for my 10 years down there. There was constantly, daily reports of mass shootings by the terrorist group and by the army of Peru. And you got to the point where you got numb. It didn't make a difference because you saw it so much and you were exposed to it for so much. And in fact, we were lucky up in the north because afterwards, when they finally broke the group and did all that, they said our area was one of the areas that the terrorist group was using for a safe haven. So they weren't doing that much stuff up where we were. And it just happened at the end. And I remember there was in our diocese, Chulucanes, there was a bomb that went off, and we had a meeting, we were talking about it, and I asked one of the people who lived in town, well, what do you think about this bomb? Are you worried? You know what they said? Father, it was 4 blocks down. I'm not worried. It was 4 blocks down. I'm not worried. Yesterday evening, I usually meet with our parish youth group that meets on a Friday. We had 20 kids that were down there, and I asked them for topics that they would like us to address in homilies, and if we give them a talk once a month, which we do. And then afterwards, I asked them, well, how are you doing with this shootings? Have you talked about it in school? Have you had a dialogue about it? And they were quite open. And two of the things that stand out to me was one of the members of the youth group said they went to talk to their school counselor because they were depressed, they were angry, and that person said something that really hit home and said, in a place where I feel safe, I don't feel safe anymore. Because that's what happens when we're invaded by violence and break-ins, whatever, where we think we're all safe and in a nurturing situation and we can't be harmed. They said, I don't feel safe, and that's a hard feeling to get over and work towards. And then the other thing that another person said was, when I went to talk to my counselor, they tried to get me over my feelings and solve my problem. And the person said, all I needed was for somebody to listen to me. I needed to express those things that were going on inside of me, the anger, the hate, whatever it was going forward. And I was reflecting on that because this week from the diocese after the shootings, I put on, if you go to our YouTube page or our Facebook page, there's a video that I made this week that directs us to our website, and they actually put some resources, 4 resources on how to deal with mass violence, shootings, how to talk to kids. There's a little 2-page thing. And one of the first things every one of them says is, we need to create space for people to express themselves. And I was thinking about that in relationship even to today's feast of the Ascension. In a real sense, the disciples that went through with Christ had a death and dying because they were with him, they saw his miracles, then they saw him die, then he came back and now he left them again. And they're thinking, oh God, not again. Here we thought we were going to have you. Here we thought that kingdom was coming, and now you're going to leave, and then you're telling us we got to continue this work going forward? You mean you're just not going to zap the world and it's going to change? And basically the Lord said, no, but I need to go in order for you to gain the Spirit, to gain that energy, to gain that love of the deeper love of the Father, in such a way that you begin to really live what I tried to teach you. And as I was reflecting on that, I know more than once I had people call me this week, and they've been crying and they've been talking, and eventually after they get the big cathartic experience, and you begin to talk with them, one of the things that they all said is, I know I can't change what happened, I think that's important when we get to that point. I can't change what happened, but somehow I need to ask God, how am I going to live through this? Or what am I supposed to do to deal with this? Or how am I supposed to incorporate this into my life that yes, it's depressing, yes, it makes me angry, but there is a movement beyond, and that's what the Lord told the disciples today as he ascended into heaven. We're going to send you the Spirit. I'm going to send you the Spirit from my Father in order that you could begin to move forward in a way that's valiant and prophetic. And we all know that's not easy. Any of us who have experienced death or have been part of it or whatever, it's not easy to overcome that. And yet there is usually, even over time, a way that we begin to move forward. And maybe during this time, the Cardinal sent out a letter to all of us talking about what possibly we could do. And I was thinking about this. It's great that the Cardinal thinks like I do. I mean, some of the ideas I had, he had. How could we deal with this? How do we go forward? Well, it depends on what your view of gun control. Write to your legislators what you think about gun control. For it, against it, I don't care, but they need to hear from us, not just do it on their own, because they are responsible for us. How do we recreate spaces in our families of peace? How do we talk to one another? How do we check on people who we don't see that are right if we notice a difference in them? For kids, it's usually a change in health habits. They're not as bubbly as they used to be, or they're not. How do we notice changes in people so that we could open up and say, hey, are you okay? Do you need to talk? What's going on? And then another part is, are we going to hold our own self accountable in the way we live to be fair and to be just and to be honest with one another and to really get in touch with what I think and feel about this, and then maybe take that to prayer in order to move forward. So as we continue with the celebration of our Easter mysteries and this ascension, I think we're being called by our Lord today to look at how we are living, knowing we can't change the past, and it's not a past that we're proud of. Yet through the power of the Spirit, we are all called in a very special way to do what the Lord asked the disciples to do, to preach his gospel of peace, understanding, and love, and begin to change the world.